Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us this evening. I'm Valerie Wanza, and I have the pleasure of serving the district as the Deputy Superintendent Chief of Staff. We thank you for joining us this evening. Before we get started, we do have translation services available, and we would ask our translators to come down to the floor mics and introduce themselves and the services they will provide tonight.
Boa noite, meu nome é Cláudia Maciel, eu estou aqui para fazer a tradução da reunião para português. Se você está aqui nesse momento e não fala inglês e quer a tradução para português, você pode vir aqui do lado, que eu vou estar fornecendo o equipamento e no final você traz de volta. Obrigada, um bom evento a todos.
Buenas noches, yo estoy aquí para asistir a alguien que no habla inglés. Por favor, si alguien necesita mi ayuda, déjenme saberlo, ¿ok? Gracias.
Bonjour tout le monde. Moi là pour parler en créole avec ça que tu as besoin traduction en créole haïtien. Donc moi là pour Lingua Express, donc à votre service. Merci.
Hi, I'm Sydney. I'll be providing ASL interpreting services.
Thank you. We'd like to begin by expressing our sincere gratitude to the Dillard High School 6 through 12 family for inviting us here tonight and for hosting tonight's town hall. With that, we are going to welcome the hardest working principal, Ms. Cassandra Robinson, to the podium to give us a warm welcome and to walk us through some beginning formalities. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wanza. Good evening, everyone. Again, I'm Cassandra D. Robinson, the proud principal here at Dillard High School 6 through 12. And it's my honor to welcome you to the historic Dillard High School, a school with such great history, success, and pride. It's not just a school, it's a community. And each one of you is an integral part of it. Dillard High School is without a doubt the anchor of this community, and your support and involvement have been instrumental in our achievements. With the distinction of being over 117 years strong, it is the academic home of many proud graduates and proud staff members. Over the last 10 years, we've adopted a theme of we strive for excellence in all areas, and we excel in academics, the arts, technology, and athletics. This commitment to all-round development is what sets us apart and makes us proud. In the interest of time, I won't stop to communicate many of our accomplishments in each of these areas, but I would be remiss if I didn't quickly share in the area of technology. We just returned from the robotics world competition, not region, not state, but world competition, where we made it to the quarterfinals, which means we were 19 out of 75 teams from all over the world. Yeah. We were the only school in the state of Florida to bring home an award. Thank you. We are really, really proud of that accomplishment. In the area of athletics, just very quickly, our track and cross-country team coach, Mr. Davidson Gill, was recently announced as BCAA 2024 Coach of the Year. And if you think that's something, guess where the Student of the Year came from? Dillard High School. Christina Coleman, 12th grade Dillard High School, was named BCAA Female Athlete of the Year. A list of accomplishments go on and on, way too many to share in this setting, but I do encourage you to visit our website at www.browardschool.com/Dillard High. Before I take my seat, I'd like to take this opportunity to acknowledge my fellow Dillard Innovation Zone principals by asking them to stand in the audience. Woo-hoo! Dillard Innovation Zone, guys. Thank you. You may be seated. Just a little housekeeping. The restrooms and water fountains are located in the lobby outside the doors. The parking lot that you parked in is on 27th Avenue, where most of you parked, and that leads to Sunrise Boulevard and I-95 if you make a left out the gate, and if you make a right, then you'll be headed to the Turnpike in 441. Again, welcome to the historic Dillard High School. Your presence here tonight is a testament of your commitment to our community and our schools. On behalf of Dillard High School's faculty, staff, and students, along with Superintendent Hepburn and other senior district leaders, I extend a heartfelt thank you for joining us for this evening's community town hall meeting regarding redefining our schools. At this time, please stand for the presentation of the colors and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I, to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing until the colors have left the stage. Thank you. You may be seated. And again, welcome to Dillard High School 6 through 12. Thank you. Dr. Wanza.
Thank you, Mrs. Robinson, and thank you to the JROTC Air Force Color Guard. So again, we want to thank you for joining us this evening. And before we get started, we kind of want to give you a little roadmap of what to expect tonight. In a few short moments, our District 5 School Board member, Dr. Jeff Holness, will bring greetings on behalf of him and his colleagues, and also introduce his colleague who's joining him tonight. Following that, district staff, led by our superintendent, Dr. Howard Hepburn, along with our South Regional Superintendent, Mr. Alan Strauss, will walk you through the presentation of the superintendent's considerations, as well as one other vantage point of looking at redefining the district. And then following the presentation, we will have an opportunity for you to provide feedback via an online survey tool. But as you can see, we also have floor mics, so we will give you an opportunity to express some verbal feedback as well. We look forward to tonight's conversation and discussion with you. And with that, it is my pleasure to bring to the mic for greetings, Dr. Jeff Holness, the District 5 School Board member.
Good evening, everyone. As a Dillard High School graduate, it is such an honor for me to be here representing you as your school board member for District 5. So thank you so much for coming out. I would like to express a warm welcome to everyone joining us for District 5 Town Hall as part of our Redefining Our Schools initiative. It is my pleasure to introduce my fellow school board member who is here with me this evening, Brenda Pham. Additionally, I would like to recognize my colleagues who are not in attendance tonight. School Board Chair Lori Alhadef for District 4, Vice Chair Debbie Hickson, countywide, at large seat 9, Daniel Fogan-Holy, District 1, Tori Alston, District 2, Sarah Leonardi, District 3, Nora Rupert, District 7, and Dr. Alan Zeman, countywide, at large seat 8. I would also like to recognize the elected officials joining us here today, and I am so grateful that you've joined us. I'd like to recognize our state senator for District 32, Dr. Roslyn Osgood. I would also like to recognize our state representative, Darrell Campbell. Please stand. In addition to that, I see the City of Plantation came out in full force, and I'd like to recognize our 3 council members from the City of Plantation. First, I have Denise Horland. Please stand. I'd like to also recognize Louis Reinstein. Please stand. And I'd like to recognize a council member from Plantation as well, Tim Fadgen. Please stand. In addition to that, I would like to recognize some of our great community leaders who are here with us. And by the way, if you are an elected official and I did not recognize you because I did not see that you were here, please stand. Okay, great. Oh, there we go. I'm so sorry, I did not see you back there. Let's recognize from the City of Lauderhill, Vice Mayor Jabal. All right. Is there any other elected officials that is in the audience that I did not recognize? Please stand. Please stand. Anyone else? Okay, great. So I'd like to also acknowledge some of our wonderful community servants in this district and otherwise who have put in a lot of hours volunteering for this district. So first I'd like to recognize the president of our newly formed Grand PTA, which is Ms. Aretha Wimberly. I'd like to also recognize our diversity chair for the district, Ms. Narnique Grant. Please stand. And lastly, I'd like to recognize our Central Area Advisory Chair, Ms. Dee Defoe. Please stand. If there's any other community leader that I did not see, please stand to be recognized. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you. All right, so I'd like to thank the school and district staff for putting this together. Thank you so much. We are at a pivotal moment for Broward County Public Schools, confronting challenges such as underutilization of school space and under-enrollment. This initiative is more than just a conversation tonight. It's a collective call to action. We are committed to working with our stakeholders through this process. Your commitment to joining us in this significant endeavor is invaluable. Together, we can foster transformative change, reshaping our schools for the better. Now, please join me in welcoming my superintendent, our superintendent, Dr. Howard Hepburn.
Thank you, Dr. Holness. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for attending tonight's Redefining Town Hall. Tonight we will review my considerations for redefining BCPS, which will include change of grade level configurations, lease or sale of properties, change of school boundaries, public-private partnerships, merge or combine schools, converting schools to full choice programs, repurposing schools, and also closing schools. The considerations that we will present to you involve reviewing feedback from our initial community conversations and reviewing a myriad of trend data that informed our key criteria to ultimately develop these considerations. These considerations focus on regaining students from competing non-district operated schools in areas with a large and increasing amount of students. These considerations also include a mixture of closings and repurposing of schools for areas with declining student enrollment. These considerations we are presenting will address our ability to maximize district funding by creating recurring revenue by recapturing student enrollment, maximize our utilization of school space, sell and or lease of land to increase our fund balance and address other district priorities, public-private partnerships to increase collaboration for common district and community interests. Tonight, we welcome your feedback and understand that feedback is truly a gift when addressing complex challenges. This series of Redefining BCPS Town Halls will be used to further refine our considerations as we present them to our school board on May 14th. At this time, I want you to please welcome Alan Strauss as he gets ready to present these considerations to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hepburn. It's good. You have to bear with me because the screen's behind us, so I don't have anything in front, so I just want to make sure we're... There we go. Just to give a brief overview of tonight's presentation, we will first look at review innovation zones. We will then move on to the criteria and the data points that created some of the considerations. We also will then thoroughly go through the superintendent's considerations, and then we will do a total district realignment outlook of that, which is not one of the superintendent's considerations, but we just wanted to provide another point of view of looking at the district right sizing. Finally, the last two things will be the timeline. We'll go over what's happening between now and any board action. And then last but not least, as Dr. Hepburn mentioned, we will have community feedback, both through online survey, as well as the two mics that are in front to hear your actual verbal feedback as well. First, the innovation zones. This map was shown at the April 16th school board meeting during the superintendent's update. This map shows 5 clusters of innovation zones. The Dillard and South Plantation zones, which are represented through this evening's town hall, are one of the 5 clusters, and we'll get to that through the presentation. Also, you see up on the screen are the considerations, which Dr. Hepburn already, in his welcome, went through those considerations. On to the data analysis. So the data points in which were considered to create the superintendent's considerations are the following. The first one is the 23-24 benchmark enrollment, which is also known as a 20-day count for the school year. The next item, or next data point, was the utilization of permanent seat capacity. So real simple, if I have a 1,000-seat school and I have 700 students, 700 divided by 1,000 would equal 70% utilization of the seats that are available at that school. Next is school grade. We looked at a 5-year school grade average. Then we further honed down on the seat utilization and looked at enrollment concerns for any schools that were identified lower than 55%. The next bullet is very important in making considerations. When we talk about sufficient adjacent permanent capacity, what we're talking about is if I have an under-enrolled school and I were to close that under-enrolled school, can the adjacent schools around it absorb the enrollment of that school? So for instance, if I have a school with 350 students, could those 350 students, through boundary changes, be absorbed with those elementary schools that are surrounding it? And so it's either yes, it can be, or no, it cannot be. And there's examples in our district of both. The next data point is historical significance. I think being here tonight at Dillard 612, we understand what historical significance is. This is a historically significant school in this district. Another example that I've been using in the prior presentations would be Attucks Middle School. Back in the day, it used to be known as Attucks High School. It actually shut down for a year, then reopened as Attucks Junior High, ultimately becoming Attucks Middle School. And it has a historical significance within the neighborhood that it serves. So those are examples of historical significance. And during the March 20th workshop, there was actually backup that described all the different schools that were identified as historically significant in our school district. The last 2 bullets, you see school grade concerns again. More specifically, is it a school that's an F school, a D school, possibly a very low C school? And finally, we have to look at the age of the facility. Some of our campuses have buildings that predate 1960. And just to think about that, in 2024, that means the age of those buildings are over 65 years old. And so that was another data point to be considered. With that all being said, taking all those data points and doing analysis, the superintendent has come up with considerations. So I'm going to go the cluster zone by cluster of zone, so bear with me as I go through this. And I will be doing a further explanation as we go within the zones. First, we have the Everglades, Flanagan, and West Broward zones. Although it's not located anywhere near where we're located tonight, This is in the southwest portion of the district, and in that portion of the district, there is a heavy presence of charter schools there. And so the competition is very difficult and tight between our public non-charter schools and our public charter schools. So we are competing for students, but there are plenty of students out there. The schools that are up for consideration are shown behind me. And I'm going to start to the far right with Pines Middle School. At Pines Middle School, the consideration is grade reconfiguration. Pines Middle School is a traditional 6 through 8 middle school with a boundary. The consideration is to take that and replicate one of our schools in the north part of the district, which is Millennium Collegiate Academy 612. Originally, Millennium was just Millennium Middle School. Several years ago, we converted it to Millennium Collegiate Academy 612. It has proven very successful, so successful, just last week, U.S. News and Report named it the #2 high school in the state of Florida. And so when you have programs that are successful, you want to replicate them because potentially other people within the district want to attend schools of that nature. So the consideration for Pines Middle is to reconfigure it to that. Basically, instead of Pines Middle, we could look at it as Pines Collegiate Academy 6 through 12, where students can walk out of there with their AA degree upon graduating high school. Moving down to the middle bottom, you see Silver Shores Elementary. The consideration listed there shows repurposing and full choice school. First, I want to address full choice school and explain clearly what that is. A full choice school in our district is a school in which parents apply to have their children get into the school, and therefore it is only through application that a student gains entrance. And some examples of that in our district would be Pompano Beach High School, would be Beachside Montessori Village, would also be our technical high schools at Sheridan Tech, Atlantic Tech, and McFadder Tech, as well as our Nova schools, the 4 Nova schools, the 2 elementaries, 1 middle, and high school. All of those schools are full choice schools. Every student there, that parents had to apply to have them gain entrance in there. With that being said, we look to consider taking Silver Shores, and just to paint a little bit picture about Silver Shores, Silver Shores has a population of about 40 students. They have a capacity of over 800 students, so they're severely under-enrolled. So in looking at that and with the charter competition, the consideration is to change them from a traditional K-5 bounded school to make them a full choice, but also change it from a K-5 to a K-8 model. In the southeast of our district, I mentioned before, Beachside Montessori Village is a K-8 model that we have is very successful. There's a waiting list of students that are trying to get into that school. So we want to replicate that as well all the way out in the west side, in the southwest there at Silver Shores. In order to do that, Silver Shores would have to get rid of its boundary, and those students that are assigned to Silver Shores would have to be rebounded or assigned to another school. What you see to the left of them is Silver Lakes Elementary, and to the top of them, Silver Palms Elementary. Those 2 schools would absorb the students coming from Silver Shores Elementary. The final thing is at Silver Shores Elementary, they have a large ESE pre-K and cluster program. Those cluster programs would shift over to Panther Run Elementary. What, in essence, that would do is take Silver Shores Elementary as an under-enrolled school, potentially fill it up, but at the same time, increasing the capacity of the 3 surrounding elementary schools because they, too, are a little bit light and under-enrolled. The next set of zones, oh, sorry about that, Dr. Hepburn.
Yeah, so quick thing to add up, but first I see some people taking pictures. Just want to remind you that this PowerPoint slide is online at Broward Schools BrowardSchools.com/redefining. So it is online, so you don't have to worry about taking multiple pictures. Or if you're in the back and if you can't see, you can pull it up on your phone right now and follow through, just a reminder. But I definitely want to point out for this innovation zone, or cluster of innovation zones, this is one of those areas where we have an abundance of students. The problem is they're just not choosing us. they're making a choice to go to charter for the most part. So it provides an opportunity to recapture these students, right? And for us, students equal funding. So replicating solutions that work, that actually have a waiting list, and also creating new innovating opportunities to attract students, because we have to compete, is going to help us regain those students, create more reoccurring funding in this area, since there's a lot of students to go around. We just need to do something better. We need to compete, provide more innovating opportunities so we can regain our market share in this area.
Thank you, Dr. Hepburn. Yes. So the next set of zones are the Hallandale, Hollywood Hills, and South Broward zones. Those are located in the southeast portion of our district. The schools that are looking for consideration on the next slide, and I'm going to begin in the bottom right with Hollywood Central Elementary. Hollywood Central Elementary is a traditional K-5 elementary school, and however, in this segment of our district, we also have charter competition. Literally 2 blocks away from Hollywood Central Elementary sits a K-8 charter school, and then a couple blocks down Hollywood Boulevard sits another K-8 charter school, and then actually a couple blocks north off of Taft and Dixie sits another K-8, or actually K-12 charter school. So the charter competition is very heavy in this segment as well. So in order to compete, as you just heard Dr. Hepburn say, with Hollywood Central, and about 5 years ago, the community, the residents around Hollywood Central asked the school district to convert it into a K-8. At the time, it was not approved and it did not go forward. However, now the consideration is to listen to the residents and provide them what they asked, providing them with a K-8 solution on their school property at Hollywood Central. I'm going to say at Hollywood Central, just to give you an idea where a lot of people are choosing the charters and want to provide numbers, there's 330 students that are in grades 6th, 7th, and 8th grade that live within the Hollywood Central boundary. Out of those 330 students, only 75 elect to go to their bounded middle school, which in this case would be Olson Middle School. So you have well over 200 students that elect to go somewhere else, and yes, the majority of them are going to charter schools. So in doing so, we hope to attract those students back to our schools. But in doing so also, Olson Middle School would lose some students because those 75 students most likely would want to go to the school that's right down the street from where they live. So the consideration for Olson Middle School is to close Olson Middle School. Olson Middle School has roughly 600 students, and the school made for almost 1,200 students. And just to also further explain, there are 3 middle schools in this segment: Olson Middle School, Attucks Middle School, and McNichol Middle School. Between the 3 middle schools, there's 3,600 available seats, but only 1,800 students attending those 3 schools. So there's a plethora of seats available, and to maintain 3 middle schools with 50% seat utilization, we have to consider to do something different. However, when we're looking at Olson Middle School, one of the things that we would look at is to repurpose that campus into district administration space. And for those of you that are here at Dillard, you may be familiar with the Arthur Ashe campus, which houses our Atlantic Technical adult programs and in the daytime and nighttime. However, we have our CTASE department and our ESC departments that are housed in that location as well. We could potentially move them out of Arthur Ashe, free the whole Arthur Ashe campus up for Atlantic Technical to expand programs which would benefit people in the neighborhood as well as students at the local high schools for technical dual enrollment. So even though the proposal here, the consideration here is all the way in the southeast, it literally has an impact right down the street here at Arthur Ashe campus. So I wanted to point that out. The students from Olson Middle School, like I said, would then attend Attucks Middle School. Some students would attend Hollywood Central K-8, and some students would attend McNichol Middle School. And as I mentioned, there's plenty of seats to house those students there. The next consideration on here is in the middle below Olson, Oak Ridge Elementary. Oak Ridge Elementary sits about 76% in enrollment, so enrollment's not a big concern. However, is they had school grade concerns. They've been a D the last 2 years. They became a C a few years ago, a D, they were bouncing back and forth between Ds and Cs. In addition, half of their facilities that are on their campus are built before 1960. So we have part of their campus is very old, like I said, over 65 years old. For Oak Ridge Elementary to be considered for closing, we would have to look for the surrounding elementary schools. Once again, one of those things that I talked about, can they absorb those students? In this case, they can. At Bethune, Hollywood Hills, and at Colbert Elementary, they could absorb the students. In addition to that, at Collins and Sterling Elementary, we're going to make some adjustments in the boundaries because when we're looking at the boundaries, there's students that are bounded, say, for instance, to Collins Elementary, but yet they live closer to Sterling Elementary. So when we're going to do some boundary changes, we're looking to rectify some of those situations as well. Dr. Hepburn?
Yeah, so in this innovation zone, this is more of a mixed option approach, offering solutions that the parents have asked for many years in the K through 8 for Hollywood Central Elementary, which will recapture students that are going to those charter schools by offering different solutions. Also, a lot around maximizing utilization of space with under-enrolled schools, just to make sure that we're not having students spread out all over the place, a small amount of kids, which costs a lot of money per student funding in those schools. And also it gives us opportunity for the surrounding schools, especially for Oak Ridge, when those students are rebounded into the surrounding schools, gives us opportunity to really evaluate the program offerings at those other schools so we can make sure that we're propping them up and getting rid of that yo-yo effect that I call with the up and down student performance and where it's not remaining consistent while we're providing some different type of solutions for programmatic structures.
So the next zones are Dillard and South Plantation zones. And I do have to note, a Dillard grad from 1993 said to me, "You better bring it here like you did last night, Mr. Chisholm," right? I hope I'm doing well for you. All right. So here at the Dillard and South Plantation zones on this next slide here are the schools that are up for consideration. In the middle there, you see Broward Estates Elementary. And as many of you are aware, Broward Estates sits adjacent to Parkway Middle School, and there's always been discussion about combining them and doing a variety of things. In this case, for Broward Estates, the consideration is to close the school. You have 250 students in a school that's made for 500 students, so it's sitting at low enrollment. Once again, performance concerns, and also, as many of you know, the condition of the facilities is not necessarily the best. So let's rebounder those students into a better facility, as Dr. Hepburn, provide better programmatic efforts at those schools as well. And hopefully with that, we will ensure that those students are walking in and being successful. But more importantly, what do you do in regards to the site at Broward Estates? And the consideration there is to take it and turn it into an early learning center for those 0 to 4-year-olds. We did this down in Gulfstream and Hallandale Beach and made Gulfstream Early Learning Center. It's proven very, very effective. We have over 14 classrooms there of students, and they walk into kindergarten ready to learn. Kindergarten readiness is crucial, and we wanted to make sure for the central portion of our district, we have a place for our students, or our future students, shall I say, as they're matriculating from being born all the way up to walking into kindergarten, us to provide that great instruction to get them kindergarten ready at Broward Estates Early Learning Center. As you surround there, the 5 schools that are surrounding it up there, you have boundary considerations. In addition to that, at Sunland Park Academy, for those of you that are familiar, a few years back, they had to change from a traditional K-5 kindergarten because of their school grade down to a K-3, and therefore that's why there's Sunland Academy and not Sunland Elementary School. They've been doing excellent, and we feel that they can do even better by moving them back and treating those students that live right near there and that are, instead of having after 4th and 5th grade having to leave the school and go to another school, for them to have a traditional K-5 experience. And so we want to provide that segment of Sunland Park. Therefore, we would make a boundary change to ensure that the 4th and 5th grade students would remain at Sunland Park, which would then create boundary changes as well throughout. So in essence, Sunland Park would have its full boundary. Broward Estates would spread out amongst Thurgood Marshall, MLK, Plantation, Westwood Heights. It would be a spattering depending on where everyone lives for that boundary. The other thing I do want to mention up there is with MLK, there's a consideration for a program change. They added the Montessori program a few years back to MLK, and it's what I'm explaining and understanding, and understand I'm a secondary guy by nature, not an elementary guy. So if my family doesn't want if you don't want your student to participate in a Montessori program, your option is to have to go get reassigned and not go to your home boundary school. And so therefore, overall, that program is not ultimately successful is the feeling. So we're looking at changing that back to a traditional standard curriculum, but once again, as Dr. Hepburn has mentioned, enhancing the curriculum with additional items. Could be a variety of things, enhancing it through STEM and robotics and other options potentially. And I'm going to hand it off to Dr. Hepburn for further comments.
Yep, so one of the frustrations for me as a longtime educator is our students in elementary school that often are not ready. They're not reading on grade level, especially when they get to that 3rd grade year. So the closing Broward Estates, but working with partners, creating partnerships so we can provide an early learning center solution for 0 to 4-year-olds, a situation that we can control the outcomes to make sure those students are well prepared before they get to kindergarten and be able to read by 1st grade. That is important. And any of the educators in the room can tell you if a student is not on grade level by 3rd grade, and definitely by 2nd grade in many instances, they're playing catch up from thereafter, and we're trying to close that loop, as well as providing us the opportunity to really look at the programmatic structures for all the other surrounding elementary schools. Again, addressing needs, providing innovative solutions, for providing solutions that actually work and have the outcomes that we're looking for, because there's always this yo-yo effect. A school will go up, and then it goes back down. Again, it goes up, and then it goes back down. And then the state is always changing their accountability measures. So we want to create some sustainability, but it also starts with us focusing on our youngest groups of kids, too, so we can control those outcomes before they actually get into elementary school.
So the next set of zones are directly to the east over in the Fort Lauderdale and Stranahan zones. The school considerations there are as follows. I'm going to start on the middle bottom with Virginia Schumann Young Elementary. Currently, Virginia Schumann Young Elementary is a full choice school. I mentioned what those were before. Everyone has to apply to have their student attend Virginia Schumann Young. A lot of interest is there because, number one, the Montessori program, but more importantly, individuals that work downtown like to have a school that's close by to downtown, drop their student off, go to work, be done, come back and pick up their student. So the consideration is to take Virginia Schumann Young and turn it into a traditional bounded elementary school and take the Montessori program and move it over to Bennett Elementary up towards the top. And a couple things I just want to point out with that. Number one, Bennett Elementary sits directly adjacent to Sunrise Middle School. And therefore, Sunrise Middle School is our 6 through 8 Montessori option. What it would create is a K-8 Montessori school in essence. There would still be 2 separate schools, but they literally would be directly next door to each other. The second point that I want to make for Virginia Schumann Young is we talked about charter competition in the Southwest and the Southeast. Here, our competition is private schools. You have literally a private school a block and a half away from Virginia Schumann Young. And what occurs, because Virginia Schumann Young right now is a full choice school, individual families that come in and purchase their homes around that neighborhood, many times they can't get their student into that neighborhood school because it's not a neighborhood school, it's a full choice school. They would have to go to a different school, and they say, if I can't have my student attend a school 2 blocks away, then I'm going to put him in the private school that's 3 blocks away. I'm not going to take them to a school that's, a mile and a half away. And they just make the decision and they utilize whether it's a school voucher or not, to take their children over to the private school. And there's a number of private schools in that community area. So by taking Virginia Schumann Young and creating it into a full bounded school, we believe that it will definitely have the attraction to bring back those private school students into our public school. And to do that, we would have to make an adjustment to Harbordale Elementary's boundary. But the next thing I want to show for consideration is towards the left in the middle is North Fork Elementary. The consideration there is to repurpose the school into a full choice, and I want to say this and I'll explain it, a full choice commuter school. And we haven't really used that term ever in this district, a commuter school. And what that really means is there would be no bus transportation to the school. There would be parents dropping them off a la being a commuter. A lot of parents, like I said earlier with Virginia Schumann Young, like that opportunity to drop their student off, go to work, pick them up. That opportunity for that would change over to North Fork Elementary, where that becomes a full choice commuter school where parents can get right off of Broward Boulevard. The school is right there off of I-95, drop their students off, go to work, pick them back up. Maybe I work, up on Sunrise right here off 95 or Davie Boulevard, whatever you look at, but there's close proximity for parents that are working to bring their children to a downtown full choice school. In order to do that, there are boundary considerations that would also be made with Northside and Walker Elementary in that nature. Dr. Hepburn?
Yeah, so this is one where we're trying to present some solutions that make sense for some neighborhoods to recapture kids out of private schools, as Mr. Strauss said. Also at North Fork Elementary, trying to do something different because we do have a lot of parents that take advantage of Virginia Schumann Young as a commuter school. It's not a commuter school per se right now, but we have a lot of parents that drive into downtown to work, drop their kids off, and are taking advantage of the opportunity through a full choice. But also at North Fork, the students within that immediate neighborhood will have first priority for that school to leverage those opportunities that will be offered there. With Walker Elementary School and Northside Elementary School, again, reviewing the programmatic structures within that school to create some sustainability. Again, these two schools are also a victim of that yo-yo effect too when it comes to student performance. And we really need to do something different there to create something that's more sustainable so when kids matriculate through the system, they have good outcomes in high school and after high school so they have better choices.
The last set of zones are the Deerfield and Monarch zones. And this is a little bit different, and obviously this is all the way up in the northeast portion of the district. For those zones, enrollment is not an issue. The schools, there is some housing being built there. There is not an enrollment issue. However, we do have schools that have some needs. And some of those needs, for instance, at Deerfield Beach Elementary, they have a administration building that is a historical building. And so we could look at doing some public-private partnerships to restore that building. We have other properties there, as you see up there, the other two schools, that have some land that we could look at working and creating public-private partnerships for the benefit of our students as well as the benefit of the community in that regards. Dr. Hepburn?
Yeah, so just to echo what you said, more about public-private partnerships. One of the immediate ones that we're working on and already in a partnership with a private company is for Deerfield Beach to enhance that historic building. Also with Quiet Waters and Tedder Elementary, they have a substantial amount of land, and so working with some private entities and public entities for some additional land use on those sites.
So speaking of land, let me get to the next slide here. This slide also was shown during the April 16 superintendent update. The first two properties that are up there are the school board headquarters and also a property we typically title the TSSC Annex. The TSSC Annex is located on the crossroad-wise around Oakland Park Boulevard, just east of University. These are buildings, those two buildings are occupied with district staff. So in order, if we were considering doing anything, whether it's sell it, lease it, or anything of that nature, we would have to relocate those staff to another portion of some of our facilities throughout the district. So we have to look at that in addition to if we're considering doing anything around those properties. However, we also have vacant property. And as you see, there's some property in Coral Springs, some in Plantation, Parkland, and Southwest Ranches, and they're all going to be on the table to sell, lease, whatever we might can do. And I'm going to let Dr. Hepburn speak to that.
Yeah, so all of this is on the table. Vacant land, I know land is at a premium period in South Florida. So we expect to leverage all opportunities, try and get market value for whatever we're going to sell or lease. This will definitely help us increase our fund balance and address district priorities. And when I talk about fund balance, just think about you personally. If you're, think about a person that's living check to check and not a lot of money in the bank. All it takes is one emergency to get you out of whack. And that's what it would take for us, a couple of hurricanes here, a flood there, and we won't be financially stable. So, and then for us, it is also against the law for us to have a certain percentage fund balance. So we have to get our fund balance up so we can be financially stable and be able to weather the storm of emergencies when they come also. So that's why the vacant land and some properties are definitely on the table for consideration in the future.
So this concludes the superintendent's considerations that I definitely want to make sure we delineate between the two. So everything that we've just spoken to you about and presented are the superintendent's considerations. The next set of slides that you'll see is just looking at the district whenever you have heard any discussion about right sizing the district and looking at it in the sense of if we have a student, do we have a seat for that student? More importantly, how efficient can we have the district with a 1-to-1 ratio and only a 1-to-1 ratio, basically taking that percentage seat capacity or utilization and get it as close to 100% as possible. To do so, what you see here in this table is we broke it out between elementary, middle, and high school. A couple things to note. Number one, all our non-traditional schools are not in this. That's our behavior change centers, our ESE centers, our technical colleges, and some other non-traditional schools. They're not considered in this calculations or table. The other set of schools that are not considered are the four Nova schools, the 2 elementary, 1 middle, and high school. And the reason that is because that land lease speaks specifically to the Nova schools and what can and what cannot occur with those school properties. So we cannot consider that in the whole district perspective. That being said, when you look, and I'm just taking the top row, the elementary, there's a little over 85,000 K-5 students in Broward County schools. The average school seats that we have, and once again, there might be an elementary school with 1,000 seats, and there might be an elementary school with 500 seats. So please understand, but the average is 814. When you take that number, the 85,000 divided by 814, you come up with 105 schools. So for us to have one seat for every K-5 student that we have, we would only need 105 schools. We have 137 elementary schools. So mathematically, when you subtract those two numbers, you get 32 schools of elementary age students that we could technically close. For the middle school, you see the numbers, it would be 8 schools, and for the high schools, 2 schools, for a grand total of 42 schools. And once again, I just want to say it, that's if we're looking at it getting as close as possible to 100% seat utilization. There's 500 seats in a school, there's 500 students, maybe 499, maybe 498, but nothing like 400 or 300. It literally would be right up close to that maximum number. However, there is some impact with that. And like I said, the first impact was great. We'd be as close to 100% as possible. We would eliminate excess seat capacity. You keep hearing the number 50,000 empty seats. We wouldn't have 50,000 empty seats because if we have 200,000 students, we would have roughly 200,000 seats in our schools. However, there is some drawback to that. And one of the drawbacks that you see there on the second bullet is we would have to redraw all school boundaries and feeder patterns. in order to make sure that the elementary schools or the middle schools or the high schools that we are maintaining and keeping open can house all the students. We would have to rebounder the entire district, and that is an arduous, difficult process. Next, we have magnet programs. Here at Dillard, a performing arts magnet. What we would have to do, we wouldn't have seats. Students come from around to come to Dillard High School that don't live in the boundary to be part of the performing arts magnet. We wouldn't have any empty seats, for instance, here at Dillard. So therefore, we couldn't offer a magnet program to that extent for the students to be from the outside coming in. The other issue is we would not be able to provide school choice or reassignments. Often families want to, like we mentioned, for a school like Virginia Schumann Young, I work downtown, I want my child to be in school near where I work. Maybe I want that student to be near where the grandparents live. There's a variety of reasons why we do this, or better yet, for our own employees, they often want to have their own students within their zone feeder pattern so they can, if they work at a high school, work themselves up, or middle school, the neighboring elementary school, and such. However, there would not be any seats to allow for those reassignments to occur. With that all being said, the potential would occur is I want my student not at the neighborhood school that's around the corner. I want them to go to this school because I want it near my workplace. Well, I can't have that happen. Well, you know what? I'm going to go to the charter school instead, or I'm going to go to the private school instead. So potentially, we actually would increase our loss of student enrollment. And that's it sounds counterintuitive. We're increasing our loss, meaning we're going to have less students there. Dr. Hepburn?
Yep, so this option, there are some benefits, right? Like Mr. Strauss said, you would have full capacity in the majority of your schools. We would probably recapture tens of millions of dollars because we're not spending money on schools with low enrollment and the facility upkeep for those schools. The drawback of that is that you do limit choice. Students won't have choices within our public school system, extending those choices to attend specific student interests, such as magnets, to support their interests. So it does limit choice. The only benefit would be high capacity in schools, recapture some funds, but it definitely would limit some choice for our kids.
And I forgot to add, I apologize, schools such as those full choice schools that I mentioned before would become traditional bounded schools. So Pompano Beach High School would not be Pompano Beach High School magnet for the district. It would become Pompano Beach High School, possibly for the area that it surrounds, and it would be a traditional program, not curriculum that it exists right now. So the next is the timeline. April 29th was Monday of this week. Here we are, May 1st. So this week and next week, we are doing our town halls presentations. On May 14th, we have a board workshop. I want to be very clear. At that board workshop, Dr. Hepburn will present his recommendations. Right now, as you saw, they're considerations. Upon receiving feedback and everything else over these town halls, he eventually will come with recommendations. That May 14th meeting will take place at Plantation High School. It will begin at 5 p.m. So I just want to mention that a second time. It will be at Plantation High School and begin at 5 p.m. And one of the topics during that workshop is the superintendent's recommendations towards redesigning the district. I do want to remind everyone, at that workshop, school board members or school board as a whole cannot take action. It is a workshop. So therefore, what they're going to do is take into the recommendations, they're going to have public feedback, they're going to provide their feedback, and ultimately, then Dr. Hepburn takes all that, digests it, and moves towards June 18th, that's up there, and at June 18th, the school board will vote on his final recommendations. And understand, they could always decide to make alterations to those final recommendations, but at that point in time, a decision and vote will be had. Upon that, the following school year, the 24-25 school year, will be a planning school year. Nothing will happen. Even if they decide to close the school, nothing is being closed next year. No boundaries are being changed. next year. The implementation year would be the following year, the 25-26 school year. So I just want to be very clear to everyone so we understand what occurs there. I don't know if you have anything to say.
So before we get to the feedback portion of it, as I said earlier on, feedback is a gift to me and should be a gift to our system. It's important that we hear from you. We value the feedback. These are considerations, and we're gathering all that feedback that we're receiving through the surveys that you're about to see in a minute. Also listening to folks who are giving us some verbal feedback. We'll also, thanks to one of our future student advisors who's been at two of our past town halls, gave us a great idea to make sure that we actually send these surveys out to our students. We'll capture this, we're capturing this via video, and we'll supply the video and also the survey to our secondary students so they can provide some additional feedback too. And as we receive that feedback, we'll use that to continue to refine these considerations before we go to the board with my final recommendations on May 14th. So please, please, please participate in the survey. As Dr. Wanza is going to go through in a minute, there's an open-ended question at the end of that survey, so you can provide some additional recommendations or considerations that we probably missed or that's important to you. So please take advantage of that. It's important. Go ahead, Dr. Wanza.
So at this time, there's a QR code that is up here, but we also have individuals walking through the aisle so that they can bring it closer to you and you can access the survey from your phone. The survey has questions for you to provide feedback, and then the final question is an open-ended question where you can provide some comments or maybe some concepts that were not mentioned or that we have not posed yet for consideration. So we're going to pause for a few minutes to allow you to take the survey, and then we will come back in about a minute or two and begin taking comments from the floor.
Accessing the QR code, I'd just like to recognize a few others that came in. I'd like to recognize President of the NAACP, Marsha Ellison. Please stand. If you could give her a round of applause. I'd like to also recognize some other of our community people. Antonio Burgess, 5,000 role models. Please stand. And lastly, Beverly Richards, past president of Kiwanis, where they help a lot of children. Beverly Richards, thank you.
available online at browardschools.com/redefining. Additionally, videos from the previous 2 nights' town halls are also available, and the video from tonight will be available tomorrow as well online. So with that, we're going to begin to take your feedback from the floor. As you can see, there are 2 mics, one at in either aisle, and we ask that you please, ladies and gentlemen, if you wish to provide verbal comments, come to the mic. Each speaker will have 2 minutes. You will not be allowed to donate your minutes to another speaker, but we, but we are very anxious and excited, and as Dr. Hepburn said, humbled to receive your feedback. So with that, we will begin. Yes, ma'am. Please state your name. Yes.
Aretha Wimberly. Thank you, Dr. Holdness, for recognizing the incredible work of Grand United Community PTA for District 5. Dr. Hepburn, Senator Osgood, for your commitment to move us forward. Disenfranchised family feels as if the Broward County Public School District is sweeping trouble under the rug and failing to act on years' worth of data and neglect throughout the infrastructure of schools, serving historically underserved and underfunded neighborhoods, which are also majority minority student populations. They also blame lax district policies and poor training for worsening the budgetary chaos, including lack of transparency about the $80 million owed to charter schools, while attempting to convince parents and community that the district has the capacity to onboard its own police force and sustain pay raises to teachers. Many families say that Broward County Public School Board prioritized protecting the district over getting to the bottom of what went wrong with construction projects and academic programming for schools in less affluent neighborhoods. Board members repeatedly backtrack on promises, and some show a distressing lack of compassion in the process of allocating resources in a manner that is fair, just, and equal. In 2018, we were promised by some board members more leadership, more transparency, and more accountability. No mention of redefining or though our kids were literally attending schools in unsafe environments that under some circumstances might have been deemed structurally unsafe for occupancy. Board members can be quoted as saying, "I would insist on accountability and transparency. We need to stop the delays in school improvement projects, stop them from spiraling out of control and costing so much." But today in 2024, no such promise has been kept to protect our kids' rights to equal and equitable education opportunities in Broward counties. What about them saying there should be at least one mental health counselor available for every 500 students, despite data proving that our Black children are traumatized more than any other student population against law enforcement, against disciplinary penalties, and even that is evident in operable water fountains on their campus, rationing out paper towels after using the bathroom, inoperable toilets, no playgrounds for recess, no place for meals. They have to walk out into the elements for food service. So thank you for your patience. And I'm going to close in saying that they said to us, we are the new school board that can set a new path forward to bring leadership, integrity, healing, stabilization, and respect back to the board. But just here we are right now, not just 3, not 2, not even 1 year later, and those promises still have not been kept. And make no mistake, we recognize that this is not the doing of the superintendent. We recognize that. And lastly, a QR code to a disingenuous survey is not equity.
Thank you for your comments, ma'am. So one thing that I will ask, if you would please, if you hear something that you agree with, if you could please do the visual applause, but if you just have to clap, I understand. But we would ask that you do the visual applause. Ms. Preuss.
Thank you, and I agree with everything she said, and thank you very much. I recognize also this is not your doing, Superintendent. I'm here, and I'm going to try to be every night that I can be to just speak for my school and my community. Yes, an underserved community, a community with a lot of diversity, a community with a lot of culture and history, and a community of color, and that is Olson Middle School. My school, where I live, where my children went, where I have given 20 years of my life, that it would be on the chopping block? No. In the words of Liz Cheney, this cannot be the case. There is much more to the story of Olson Middle School than meets the eye. You were not here. The majority of the school board was not here. Perhaps Dr. Wanza and Mr. Strauss have some recollection. I would love to take it up with you and explain to you some of the things that happened. When I started there, it was 1,200 kids. There was a program that served as a magnet program, that was a gifted program that attracted kids from everywhere. In 2010, there was a certain decision made to place an administrator, not the one the community wanted, but that's okay. We respect the decisions of our leaders. 14 years later, as the school has gone down in so many ways, lost the gifted program, lost many kids who were happy to go to their community school, devastated in many, many ways. Now we got a new principal who, by all accounts in the county, is a rock star. Give her a chance to turn this school back around. We already got 100 new students this year in less than a year. Olson does not fit into the pattern of these other schools you want to cancel. I am cautioning you. There is so much more to the rich fabric of the community of Olson, the people who have stood up and who have spoken and who have said no many times. Please respect the no. Take Olson off the table. On March 14th, I am expecting fully that Olson will not be a recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor?
Good evening. Vice Mayor Lawrence Jabo Martin from the city of Lauderhill, and I don't envy any of you up there tonight because, again, as an elected official for a municipality, my charge is a little bit different. But we're talking about our kids, so I understand that y'all realize how important this is. The one thing I want to ask y'all to consider bringing back when you bring your report back, we're talking about closing schools and repurposing and things of that nature, but I haven't heard any conversations about the teachers and the workers in those closed or repurposed schools. How will they be affected? And if you have any projections on what those numbers might be when this plan takes place, understanding we may be a year and a half away, but the anxiety that it's going to put on those individuals is going to be real. As far as the parents, the schools, I suspect things will start happening well before you pull the trigger. Having the guts, I guess I'll call it, to actually pull the Band-Aid off is real. And nobody's going to be 100% happy in anything that you do. One thing I do ask also, you mentioned something about development. As we know, the population boom in South Florida is moving at record pace. Broward County is one of those counties that's growing exponentially. Please take in consideration, particularly in Central Broward, in the Lauderhill area where I represent, we're building, Plantations building, Sunrises building. Every city around us, being a centralized city, is gaining people every single day, and the buildings are up. It's not like they're they're not going to be magically appearing. They're in the ground right now. And that's going to bring people, families, and hopefully kids to the communities that we don't end up moving something that we had to come back and revisit. And also, again, Parkway Middle School, you know, as the young lady just spoke about, Olson, is a school that's been in disrepair for as long as I've been in Parkway, since '69. That school looks exactly the same. And I know there's been plans over the past years to address things, and I ask y'all, give consideration as you move forward to some of the promises that have been made to the communities to address some of these construction needs. Because again, having kids go to school where it looks like a construction zone, which Parkway is right now, part of it's been knocked down over the past couple of years, nothing put back. Temporary cover's been put in place to stop kids from walking in the rain. These are real things happening right now that I think some consideration also has to be given to. Thank you very much.
Sir. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. First of all, thank you for having us this evening. The PowerPoint was kind of, for me, all over the place, so I'm going to mention 3 different things. The first one is North Fork, full choice commuter school, and I'm going to compare it somewhat to Martin Luther King. I took some notes, and it might not have been accurate because, again, you're speaking and I'm trying to write it down. The persons that you're thinking to attract or have to ask them while they're driving downtown, kind of like what the Virginia Schumann Young model was supposed to be. Have you asked these people would they take their child to that school? Because if they won't, why is that going to be an option? The condition of the school. Would they want their child to come there with the condition of the school? Getting to Martin Luther King, the community mentioned years ago about repurposing, and that was supposed to be a reason people would come because it was a Montessori. That never happened. The same kids are there, the others did not come. So sometimes listening to the community is important, because we mentioned years ago, before you moved the staff out, but I personally believe you were moving the staff out for the reasons. That was the reason staff was moved, because you wanted to be Montessori and get more enrollment. So if that didn't take place, some of the choices today, you might want to contact the community. And the last one is according to Parkway as well. We had a meeting there a couple months ago. Dr. Hepburn, you spoke to me outside. We talked about transparency. I also spoke at the meeting. And this is also for Jeff Holness. When Ben Williams was here, and I mentioned it before, he would take the community around. Look at this, look at that, write it down. We're going to work on it. As Commissioner Jabo mentioned, a lot of those changes have not happened, and I mentioned at Parkway, my son was at Walker, he's getting a master's degree. So again, let Parkway be somewhat of a consideration in the mix. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman?
Good evening. Dr. Hepburn, welcome. We're looking forward to working with you. I stand before you, Denise Horland, City of Plantation Council member, not just as an elected official, as a former PTA president, and as one of the parents who fought 15 years ago for the International Baccalaureate program to go into Plantation Middle. And I'm disappointed that Plantation Middle and Plantation High School, while they're on the under-enrolled list, are not part of this conversation. Because my fear is, we know that the schools are the backbones of our community, and we continue to lose students from those schools. And I don't want to lose Plantation students from Plantation schools. So I think we have a chance here, and this is a long overdue conversation, to reimagine what those schools are what we're producing there. So what I'm going to ask for you is to please engage the City of Plantation elected officials so that we can have a conversation about that. We have, I think, permanent, what my fear is, let me tell you my fear. My fear is the permanent capacity for Plantation Middle, I believe was about 1,300, maybe 1,325 originally. My fear is that if you continue to put district personnel in those schools, then we have a permanent capacity that is a little disingenuous. So we say maybe that school is not quite under-enrolled. I think there's about 300 Plantation residents that are currently at Plantation Middle. So I want to talk about, that's our technology zone. What can we do to possibly partner with some of the businesses in that area, but we have to reimagine those schools, and I don't want Plantation High and Plantation Middle to get lost in all of this. So I wish you much luck, because I know these are going to be very, very, very difficult days ahead, but I wish you would engage us on those. Thank you.
Thank you. Ma'am?
Evening. I am a Plantation resident. I'm a parent. I also am a BSY parent grad, I should say. I'm going to try and keep my comments high level, otherwise I'll get too emotional about the nitty-gritty in the classroom. My big concern in what is being proposed is the teacher impact to it all. I know so many teachers that are kind of at the wit's end of everything, and I'm afraid this is going to break them if their school closes or they're required to learn a new mechanism of teaching. So I definitely didn't hear that in the conversation that you presented today. A couple other things is it just appears that it's pick one or the other. The worst case of redefine the whole district or the itemized innovation zone things that you outlined. So I guess that's a big question for me is, so there's not a keep it as it is option for the board in June. Another thing I think is of concern that I think the North Fork conversation came up, you have a marketing issue. A lot of parents have a perception that a school is bad, so they don't even consider it. And unfortunately, I am a big believer in the public school system. My kids do go to Plantation high schools, and we're constantly hearing residents say, oh no, it's a bad school, I'm going somewhere else, I'm reassigning, So I do think you have a big marketing thing that you have to do to retool everybody's brains as to what's a good and bad school. And what I also want to know is, from a population trend standpoint, how did all those market conditions come into play in your analysis? A lot of young parents I know that are here, career working people, cannot buy a home here and are moving out of the county or out of the state because of that. So young children are not necessarily going to always be here. And that's it.
Thank you. Ma'am?
Hi, I'm Gabby. I listened to all your propositions, but I did not hear anything about the Gifted Academy. And what are we doing for our gifted kids? I am a parent of a gifted kid who was in the Gifted Academy, and unfortunately he was sexually assaulted in the Gifted Academy, so he had to be pulled out. I don't think this will be the first time that you may have heard about it, but unfortunately where the school, the Gifted Academy resides right now, it's not something that parents want to go to. There is a lot of bullying, there is a lot of sexual assaults, fights, and anything. This is not the place that we want for our gifted kids, unfortunately. Those kids are there to learn, are there to be successful, and we put them there because of the gifted contained area. These kids do not thrive in a regular school setting if we go to our neighborhood schools. This is why we went there. I had to move my child 3 times before I went to the Gifted Academy. He was excelling. He was doing great until what happened. And what did I have to do? Move him out of the school into another school where now I get a phone call on a week in telling me from a teacher saying, well, I don't think your kid is good for this class that he's in because it's too advanced. Why? Because now he had to move in the middle of the year to go now and deal with new kids that obviously he doesn't thrive in there, and he was now the only gifted kid in that classroom. He had to move from the place where he was thriving. So I didn't hear anything about what are we doing for those kids. I think you have to take a look at where the Gifted Academy is right now, maybe even doing a K-8 or K-12, which works in another county like Orlando. They have that, and it is a public school, it's not a charter. It's something that may work here. I don't also think that school choice is something you may want to get rid of. I have another kid who is not gifted, who I did put him in school choice, and he thrived. He found his passion, which he would have not been able to find it if there wasn't school choice. But I think definitely you have to take a look on keeping our gifted kids safe, maybe also middle. The Gifted Academy was there, and that principal seems that may even want to love to have the program there again, because where it is right now, I can tell you that they don't want it.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Grant?
All right, good evening. Hey, how y'all doing? Nice to see you again. So I have 3 questions. One is, who or what designate the school to be historic? Because I think I've tried to find out if you guys have an historic department, and to no avail. The other is, are the considered boundaries locking the kids in the schools, like the ones that are being considered for boundaries, are they locked in, or do they have a choice for reassignment? The school board approved charter schools under a performance contract, right? So the state statute 1002.33 of the Florida says charter schools must improve student learning and academic achievement, increase learning opportunities for all students, with special emphasis on low-performing students, encouraging innovative learning outcomes and measuring learning outcomes. Why are we not evaluating the charter schools that have C or D grades? If they're under your purview. Is it under your purview? If it's not, let me know about that, because if they're not performing and you're competing with a school that's not performing, but then we have to be subjected to trying to closing our schools, how does that work? The timeline is confusing a little bit. You said nothing is happening next year, that the year for implementation will be 25-26. What does that implementation look like? Are we taking the kids out of the school? Would they be in school at the same time when you're doing your boundary process? So that wasn't clear, and I just wanted to get that cleared up a little bit. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Grant. Ma'am?
Could you start my clock over? I'm trying to get my height adjusted over here. Please. Thank you, I appreciate it. Greetings, Superintendent, school board members, and staff. I'm gonna go as quickly as possible. Just wanna say that I want you all to follow the money and the person that handles the money in the Broward County School Board. We are not Miami, we are Broward County. Miami has more schools than we do, so I hear that a lot during the school board meeting, so if you can just address that. Broward State, and I'm speaking as a taxpayer for all children. Broward State should not be closed. You spoke about low performance. You spoke about creating partnership. You spoke about controlling the outcome. I asked you to please not close it. That's a school that I went to. It's near and dear to me and to our community as well. It will, closing the school could negatively impact access to education for students in the community, particularly those from low income or disadvantaged backgrounds. It could result in longer commutes to other schools, increased overcrowding in neighboring schools, and disruptions to students' academics and social routines.
Again, you're comparing apple to oranges. Coral Springs Elementary is low enrollment. Broward Estates is low enrollment. Coral Springs is not being closed. I have a concern with that. I am a Nova High School graduate, by the way, so I'm not discriminatory in any kind of way. I love everybody. KC Wright Building, have a solution. Take their Oakland and University staff, bring it over to KC Wright Building. It's great. It's right near the courthouse. They don't have to worry about commute. Use all the floors. Maximize your staff. Keep them all together so you don't have to worry about having staff north, south, east, and west. Save gas. Gas is going up. The first Montessori school in Broward County was named Child Development Montessori School. It was located off Northwest 27th Avenue and 11th Street, northeast corner of Dillon High School. Students were thriving and school was thriving. When desegregation came, it was moved to Northwest 3rd Avenue downtown across from Fort Lauderdale High School, and it eventually folded. Please name Martin Luther King Montessori and add programs so that the children can continue to thrive there. There are families that are displaced. There's truancy issues in the school system. Children are losing education. A lot of children are out of boundary. Some principals are lacking integrity of talking about the FTE count. They're saying they have kids there, but they don't, so follow that. We need local town halls before June 18th. Listen to the students. I appreciate Dr. Hepburn. I'm almost through. Also, there's a charter school department within Broward County School Board that monitors the money, so you may want to speak to that department as to why this money is not happening the way it is. And lastly, Broward County Public School gives money to the charter schools. They close, we don't get our money back. They send the kids back, and we've lost money. So that can be a problem, and that's also why the facilities are not happening. My last suggestion, please, 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 say Broward County, Broward Estates, K through 8, it will work great. Fix the facilities. I'm about to get emotional, so I'm gonna walk away. I love you very much. Thank you for all that you do. God bless you.
Thank you. Ms. Green.
My name is Donna Green, and I'm the mother of 2 Broward School graduates and a current volunteer at South Broward High School. I'm here to speak for Olson Middle School, where both of my boys attended. Olson has had to fight for survival for 30 years. The current building was built in 1992, and the old side was supposed to be torn down and new PE fields built. Broward schools decided to use the old side to house other schools while they had construction. Then the old side was used as a 6th grade center, which made parents happy, until Olson's feeder pattern was split in 2004 and broke up the Hollywood Hills Elementary cohort. At this past Monday's meeting, the Hollywood Hills parents are asking for that to be restored, and that will bring back some students to Olson. Then Beachside Montessori was added nearby, K through 8, to drain more middle schoolers. And for many years, Olson was the only middle school in the area with no magnet program. However, the old side was condemned, never torn down, never got PE fields. Finally, now there's a literal empty field and still no PE fields for Olson Middle School after 30 years. Despite all of that, there are 600 students there, with 90 more just added, so it's showing that this new principal is succeeding. Olson Middle is in the epicenter of a literal construction boom. It sits 10 minutes from Dania Point, 5 minutes from South Broward High and Hollywood. 10,000 new units are coming online. You're gonna get a lot of revenue. It's a growing area which could attract students to Olson if it's finally treated the way it deserves and given the proper attention. So please, please do that for Olson Middle School. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Desiree Giles Smith, City Manager of the City of Lauderhill. I bring you greetings. It's good to see you, Dr. Holness, and all of the rest of the members of the panel, and you too, Sarah. I just want to say on behalf of Lauderhill, I'd just like to say we appreciate the time that you're taking to review the schools in our area. We do know that one of our schools is slated for some discussion as far as, I believe it's Broward Estates. We would encourage you to see if there's a way that we can keep it open, and I think you were looking at doing some creative strategies to do that. We would appreciate that. I would also like to say that Parkway Middle School, my son went to Parkway and so did my husband, has been neglected. And I think we need to put the money into Parkway to bring it to the status that it should have. It's a wonderful school. It really, really is. Has a great magnet program, a couple of them. And it just, my son went there and I was just really, really surprised at the condition of the school. So I would ask you to go out there and take a look at it, and let's try to put some money into the school. We were promised that it was going to have a whole new facility. They've knocked down part of the campus, but some of the schools in our area in Lauderhill have not received the attention that they should. Broward Estates is one of them. Larkdale is another of them. We want to make sure our schools are brought up to current standards, and that, I mean, they did a beautiful job at Fort Lauderdale High School. That's where my son attends now. The whole school is completely redone. We need to do the same thing at Parkway. And again, we need to look at Broward Estates too, and Larkdale and those other schools. I would also say that Wingate Oaks is one of the schools in our area too. It's doing a great job. I think it's at capacity or over capacity there, so maybe that's an opportunity too for us to look at that school and see maybe if we can shift some of those kids to Broward Estates. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Ma'am?
Hi, my name is Katrina Sapp Holder. I am a stakeholder in the community as well as a Dillard parent. My concerns are with gentrification clearly coming through the 33311 area and us repurposing North Fork Elementary and redistricting or replacing a new boundary for Martin Luther King Elementary. What are our assurances that there would be capacity for the Montessori program at Bennett? As someone who went through the process of trying to get their child into Virginia Schumann Young and being blocked, with a bunch of us that were happy when Martin Luther King became a Montessori because otherwise there would be no opportunity. In the past, there has not been a trend of making sure that these programs are equitable, particularly when they're sitting in different areas. So once they move out of, just keeping it honest, Black Fort Lauderdale, and they're placed in that other neighborhood, where will our students be? I'm here for giving us more boundaries. I'm here for the enlargement of territory. What I'm not here for is trapping us into an area and not having the same access. My daughter is an ACE diploma student here. We have about 13 classes to choose from, while Cypress Bay has 52. That is a problem. It must be addressed. She cannot even retake her biology test because we don't have the teacher or the class. This is not equity. That is my biggest problem with any of these plans. Personally, I like what you plan to do with the schools, but if there's no equity in our community, that does not work for my tax dollars. That's all.
Thank you, ma'am.
My name is Mae Smith, so you know where I'm located. I'm in Parkway community. So I attended your first set of meetings that you had over at Fort Lauderdale High School. It was not an opportunity for us to give our input. It was an opportunity for you all to tell us what we could tell you what we could live with. There was no option for us to express. I think before you guys got started, you should have came to the community first, which you didn't do. Mr. Hepburn, I know that everyone is saying it's not on you, it's not on you, absolutely. But you know what I would like to see for a change is you know our communities, you know what has been missing, you know what we're not getting. So just because another person had a plan come on, I would like to see when new leaders come on, they stop that plan and take a look and see if it's actually what they need to be doing, or was we filling out somebody else's plan. Dr. Holness, from the time you sat on that stage at Parkway Middle School, you couldn't even keep the story straight. You kept telling us we wasn't going to repurpose, and then you turn around and say you were. So people don't have any trust in you, or any of you actually, because you keep promising things that's not happening. The main problem is we don't have any money. I work at the property appraiser office, and please don't take any of my statements as an employee there representing. I'm standing here on my own. The property appraiser office, you all only give us $25,000 exemption. The second half of that, you guys can take it up to the top. Whatever the CPI calls for, you can do, which means you're getting extra money. Where is the money? The lottery. Everybody sold the lottery to us. The lottery was going to bring money into the schools, so people bought into it. Where is the money? Those are things that you guys can start looking at. As long as we've been over at Broward Estates, I've been a community leader for 25 years almost now, and I've been at Parkway to SAC meetings and everything. You guys promised so much money, and none of that money has came to fruition. Even Licata with his self came over there and said he was coming back to talk to us about things that were going to happen. He never did. It's in your court now, Mr. Hepburn, to do the right thing. I'm one of those people. I don't need a room full of people to be looking at me in order to do the right thing. So I'm asking you, because we can't trust who we have already. So now I'm turning it to you.
Thank you.
Good evening, board members and Mr. Hepburn, Dr. Hepburn. I am a teacher in District 7 and a proud parent of a child in District 5. And as we were going through, my son is in 5th grade, matriculating through 8th grade, matriculating to middle school. And I want to tell you that the one reason why we chose another school in the same district was because of the facility that it was placed in. He saw what looked like opportunity. When we visited other schools, it was not the same feeling. And I want to say to how we have talked about how you guys are superintendent's consideration, but nothing about teachers and staff members, what's going to happen with them and how that is going to impact them. Once you vote on June 14th or June 15th, whenever you vote in June, people will start to panic. People will start to leave. People are looking at other options. I walked into the Coral Square Mall recently, and there was a big banner displayed by Palm Beach County Schools recruiting our teachers. And also keeping in mind the students. We have yet to actually hear what the students' take on is in their communities. We are back against the wall. It is time for us to say, I saw a lot about partnerships with public partnerships. What does that look like? Who are these public partnerships? What have you gotten from the 501c3s, nonprofit organizations, to ensure that there is a continuum of services that our child are receiving? We need wraparound services in District 5. My child's school went without an assistant principal for about 4 to 5 months. They got an assistant principal step on campus, then it was another one. Our schools in District 5 are being neglected. We choose to stay in District 5 because of the amazing teachers and the amazing staff members that continue to show up every single day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I am Charlene. I am the Title I representative for Oriole Elementary. I just wanted to ask, is it safe to assume that the zones that were not mentioned at all are being left as is with no improvements or innovations? And do you anticipate any impact at all on those schools that were not mentioned? What considerations are being made for the Title I programs that may be affected, may not be affected? The fact is, it's just not mentioned. Your presentation was a little light on detail. So we kind of want to know, how will the programs be actually transitioned, the teachers, everything like that? I think what you gave us is high level, but a little too high level for us to make decisions on. That's it.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jay Holder. I am a 10th grade student here at Dillard High School, and I'd like to speak on the total district realignment thing. 2 points that you made in your presentation were that this would result in eliminating magnet programs and eliminating the choice of schools, or eliminating the fact that we'll be able to choose which schools we go to. As a band student currently here at Dillard High School, I want to say that the education in the magnet has been truly amazing. We have learned things that we may not have been able to experience otherwise. We've gotten experiences that we may not have been able to receive anywhere else. And so by eliminating these programs, it's not only eliminating the opportunity to quote unquote explore interests, it's eliminating things that, like resources that we have in order to be able to pursue our goals post-graduation, because there is absolutely no way that by having no magnet program would a student be prepared to go audition for, let's say, a private university in the state like University of Miami. Another thing about eliminating choice schools is that as you said, it will hurt enrollment, but it may also hurt student mental health. For example, some families may choose a school based on locations or programs that the school offer, but some, or most rather, choose to do it because they realize my child will be safe if they go here. I will not have to worry about my child every day while I'm at work because they attend this school. By robbing a child of the ability to feel safe in their school's atmosphere, it's really not worth the risk of us being at total capacity. It's honestly better, it would be better to be a fourth, maybe under capacity, if it means all of us get to go home.
Thank you.
Hi, just to reintroduce myself again, like the past 3 meetings, my name is Alana Burrow. I'm the incoming alternate student advisor to the school board. Just like I've said in many other town hall meetings, we need to be transparent with our students. Today in my Student Government Association class, I talked about what redefining schools is and how can it affect many students in our community. Out of 30 students, I asked how many knew what redefining schools was. Only 3 people rose their hands. If you want students to speak up and speak out to you and your school board members, we need to share more information, detailed information. Instead of the scare tactics or the typical your way or no way, or even moving to the total district realignment that can impact students and families in Broward County, we need to make sure students know what is going on and how they will be impacted. And with all due respect, thank you so much for being here and allowing us to speak. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Hello. Oh, bad. My name is Delisa Rufus. I come from Tamarack, Florida. Okay. I'm born and bred Broward County. I'm going to share my story with you. But first, before I do that, I have to say the young lady with the band in the band, I takes guts, girl. Okay, because I was nervous up here. I'm a grown lady. Okay, so for you to do that. My mother was Donnice Rufus. She was an elementary school music teacher. I ran Wood Elementary for 30 years, but unfortunately, she passed away January 2011 due to kidney failure. She was a single mother of 2, dedicated educator, but more than that, she was magic. The most amazing woman that I've ever met. I got it. My mother loved her students. Her colleagues, her friends, but her mental health was overlooked in the workplace. I am a new college graduate, and I have been playing music most of my life. I fell in love with music when I was 8 years old at Music Makers Summer Camp under the direction of the most prestigious music educator in the state of Florida, Nicole Greggs. Music Makers is celebrating its 27th year, and I have been a part of it ever since. I have arranged 2 shows in the past 2 years. My elementary school music teacher, Rena Seidel, middle school band director, John Nista, who is finally retiring and being inducted into the Florida Bandmasters Association, and that is a big deal, okay? I love that band. I'm sorry, I'm getting a little worked up, but Neil Jenkins was my band director at JP Taravella High School. I was the percussion captain, marched in the New Year's Day parade in Italy in 2008. I was under an ensemble under the direction of Scott Hughes, which is called Strike Percussion at Olympic Heights High School, 2009, 2010. That changed my life. I recently just completed my teaching internship at Ramblewood Elementary, which was the school that my mom taught at. You need to look deeper into students, into people's family, into educators, because she was great. She was amazing, and I am so proud to be her daughter, okay? I am so proud of her, and I'm proud of myself, but you need to be transparent with people, with kids. I'm a mother. I'm a step-parent. I'm a wife. I'm a fiance. I'm everything. I'm a friend. I'm a daughter. My whole life. Just because Please.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Mila Poliard, and I'm a
Can you
parent.
step closer to the
I'm
mic?
sorry.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome, Dr. Hepburn. As you see, people come here pouring their hearts out, and I really hope that everybody will have a chance to speak. My son is elementary student in a gifted academy at Parkway. And we did have a meeting in fall with Dr. Holmes and most of you. And unfortunately, not everybody had a chance to speak there. We did have a chance to talk to Dr. Holness after the meeting, and he's aware of issues of Parkway Gifted Academy. But since you are newly appointed, I would like to bring your attention and everybody else to opportunities and programs that are existing in Broward County for our gifted students. We talk about selling and leasing and new opportunities for our county. Can you please take a look? What can we do for our gifted students? Because as of now, they are not in the right place, not in the right program, because we're talking about perceptions. I changed my child's school till 3rd grade 5 times, trying to find a right fit. And there were no right fit. He went to A schools, he went to charter schools, he went to neighborhood school, 5 schools, and we ended up in Parkway. Overlooking all of the fears, all of the standards, all of that whatever people are talking true and not true, we took a chance. We will listen, and there is a good and bad, and it's been a hard 2 years. You're the third superintendent that we are reaching out for help, and I think this is a perfect time, and this is a perfect opportunity for us to change the future of our gifted kids, because although there are perceptions, there are truth to a lot of misfortunes of Parkway location and the services they provide. And unfortunately, this is our 2nd year, people are taking out their kids because of safety issues, and they choose the safety of their kids versus academics, although this is the only thing that works for our kids. Self-contained, I'm asking you to consider creating K-12 gifted academy in Broward County, looking in other counties like Orlando Gifted Academy. They're open in 2017, and they're very, very successful. We are a 2nd largest county. We have to do better. There is a meeting of Gifted Advisory Council meeting on May 13th, 7 p.m. Plantation High. Dr. Licata was supposed to come. I hope you can make it, Dr. Hepburn. There's a lot of issues. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Dr. Hepburn. My name is Mistoria Brown, and I have a statement first. I just want to paraphrase at least what I saw in the presentation to have an understanding before I can answer the survey. What you're considering is only closing possibly 3 schools and then creating either innovation schools or some type of collaboration between other community schools in order to support the shrinkage of class sizes. If we do a full realignment, then that means we could look at closing 42 schools to fulfill every school in a space. At least is what I'm thinking I understood based on the presentation. And unfortunately, I guess my question is, when we're looking at closing the schools to shift students, are we going to be looking at how we actually preparing teachers with cultural pedagogy that will help support the students that are moving into those areas? That's the first thing. The second thing is, when you talk to students who are currently in school, the biggest things that they're looking for is they feel they're not learning. If they're not learning, then they may feel the teachers are not teaching. If teachers are not teaching, it is not that they're not teaching, there's a communication gap. So how are we going to ensure that we're preparing teachers from a professional development stance where we're not giving them the same professional development year after year, but we're giving them things that will help them prepare the great grandparents of 21st century students? So if we're looking at this from a standpoint of truly students, because what I really heard in the presentation was the bottom line. How can we repurpose schools to save money, to kind of leverage what we're hemorrhaging from financially, maybe sell a few properties or joint lease them and things of that nature. I get the financial part of it. Some of it is just, it's the head. We got to look at the money. I get that. But nothing was really said about a plan for students. What are we actually going to be doing when we really want to compete with charter schools? Charter schools have innovative programming. They have dynamic technology. Their teachers are being professionally developed from outside sources and not just from the teachers that are in our in-house setting. So what are we going to do to ensure that our students are actually getting what they need in the classrooms that will make them want to actually come? What does innovative programming look like to you? It's a word we use, but do we really know what innovative programming look like? And do we actually know what literacy is? Because right now, our teachers are speaking a language that our students are not speaking. So we have to ensure that our teachers are actually teaching with a pedagogy that meets the students' dynamics, all right? And I think my last question is, how can community members bid on properties? Is that gonna be transparent? And will it also be transparent as to what company you're using to do the qualitative analysis of this data? Because May 14th, it's 13 days away. And if you're gonna be collecting data from everybody, that's a lot of data. And will you be using an equity measure of using 2 or 3 companies to actually look at that data to ensure it's actually being chosen from a good standpoint? And if we can have transparency from that.
Thank you. Senator?
Good evening. I am Dr. Rosalind Osgood, Florida State Senator for District 32 and a member of the State K-12 Education Committee. Thank you to this community for allowing me to hear your thoughts about education. We don't get the opportunity to have you come to Tallahassee to give your input. And I do have a few takeaways as far as the charter schools and being able to evaluate them. That's a state issue. I want to also thank the educators, the school board for the work you do, and just start off in a very transparent way. Our number one issue, while we're even at this point, is because on the state level, we continue to inadequately fund education. That's why districts are now having to go out for bond referendums where we're paying twice, because on the state level, we're not given the funding that we need to support our school districts. So when that happens, if the district presents a budget, a DEFP plan, and they have a plan, and then 2 years into the plan, the state reduces the money or take away funding, they have to change the funding model or what they propose to do, because they don't have the money to do that. As I heard the plan tonight, I just had a couple of thoughts to ask for your consideration. One is that we publicly talk about how the superintendent's proposal, which I thought was a very decent proposal, although we do need to make some tweaks, is going to positively or negatively impact homeless students. And then my second thought was, as I listened, and we talked about the K.C. Wright building. And by the way, I believe in Black history 365 days a year. So when we talk about the K.C. Wright building, that building is named after Dr. Kathleen Wright. And whatever we do with that building, we have a monument in front of it to remember her, that if we go a route to sell it, hopefully we can move that monument to Old Dillard Museum or Dillard High School. Dr. Kathleen Wright was the first Black woman, first Black period in the state of Florida to win a countywide school board election, and the first Black woman in Florida to be on, the first Black to be on the Broward County School Board. So many of us stand on her shoulders and her legacy, and we don't want erasure of Black history with monuments of Black people who did good public service being taken down.
Thank you, Senator. Sir?
Good evening. My name is Tom Vasquez. I am a resident here at District 5. And just for the room mostly, yesterday we had a spirited discussion about how we can better do what we're doing. We talked about, in 2 areas specifically, money and public trust. I want to take those ideas and apply it specifically now to District 5. Because here you'll find, and you've heard, there's a sense of disparity. There's a sense of distrust based on decisions that we have endured historically. So where do we go from there? What do we do based on those comments we said yesterday? Here's what I would recommend. Instead of doing the basic song and dance, we promise that we're going to do certain things. We actually do a commitment of process that says, whatever money is made out of all these decisions, whatever money is made off of the backs of District 5 stays in District 5. All right? How do we ensure that? On May 14th, you're going to have your meeting. There's nothing stopping us from saying we're going to stand up community investment committees. These are people that are not going to just give opinions, they're part of the process. It cannot move forward without their input. And I tell you why you want to do that. Because whatever changes we make, we have to become more competitive. And it's about the terrain. It's about where we live. We know what schools we have to be better than. So a broad brush, cookie-cutter approach is not the way to go. We want to beat that school. So we want this services, we want the buses to be here, we want these additions made here, specifically targeted to make us more competitive so that we can get something for the pains and sacrifices we're about to go through. So I just lever that. Hopefully that I'll add some value to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Good evening, everybody. My name is David Williams. I am also a father of a student here in District 5 Elementary School. I came here tonight with no real expectations of what to look for. I got the phone calls. My son's only 5 years old. I'm just getting my head wrapped around everything that's going on. And I watched and listened, and everything you guys presented today kind of made me sad, because looking at the way from the time my son was born, dealing with near heart failure and other things, starting school a little bit later than expected, from the ground up, everything was beautiful. The people, as I spoke with the counselors and the teachers, getting him enrolled into the program, there was heart there was concern, there's constant communication, paperwork and things being handed back and forth to let me know how to better adapt to the situation. My son's coming in on the back foot. And it's kind of terrifying. I understand that you guys have money on the mind because you guys are at that level where you have to make sure that everything gets divvied to a certain degree, but there were so many oversights, so much information not seemingly thought of or brought up that it just kind of pulled me back to what are we really doing? Because that's my son. And all I hear is, well, for your son, we can't do anything, but for your school, hopefully this doesn't disrupt his life, though he's already on the back foot. The changes you may make in the school may stop him, or may make me have to move to another program, or may make his life harder. And there seemed to be no communication of that. These teachers who may lose their jobs or be forced to move or change programs, these students that will, one of his teachers literally told me that she took the time to make sure that he's going to be able to be in her class for certain testing because he doesn't react well to knowing that this new person can't work with him or understand him. But it's just, like I said, it's just a terrifying idea that I understand you do have to look at certain issues, but yes, not get lost in the fact that you're still dealing with individuals who have to suffer those consequences, even if it is for a good reason. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, sir. Madam President.
Thank you. Marcia Ellison, President NAACP, and more importantly, the mother of a Broward County Public School teacher. All three of my children graduated within Broward County Public Schools. My daughter attended Parkway Middle School, where she began her love for computers, followed that and went from Parkway Middle School to working in the Pentagon with that seed that was planted there. The issue that I have, I'm concerned about, it was very fresh, and we're saying Parkway, because we were there for the meeting, and we heard the allocations of what was going to happen. So is the money still there? Is it not there? Is it going to be another delay? I think transparency means we don't have the money Parkway and the other schools, or we do something better than what we've got now, other than the broken promises. And when I think about the 5 schools that were repurposed, Dr. Hepburn in particular, they did, before there was Sunland Park Academy, there was Sunland Park Elementary, which was neglected for over a decade. All was not fantastic in that space. And they moved, it was more than just changing the sign, and it was more than just the changing the principal, because they did that about 5 times in about 7 years. And it was more than just say, well, kids, if you want to go to a different school, go. It was real programming. So Sunland Academy is where it is now, Dr. Wanza, as you know, because they put real resources, the correct teachers, the correct school leaders, and they did that for the other schools as well. So when we talk about, you know, changing the schools, there has to be real change rather than just a sign that says it's now 6 through 12 or that sort of thing. There's a lot of work and real resources that the community has to see prior to, you know, them believing that now something's going to happen. Someone has to really care about the kids. And finally, we want, whatever you sell, lease, or whatever's going to happen, just bear in mind how it's going to affect the community. This community had to battle the county to keep a morgue and some other environmentally unsafe monstrosity was coming to you that was going to affect our kids here. And there was not a consideration. They needed to sell the property. They did. But now that you know better, we're asking you to do better and help protect this community and make sure that with the kids and families, everybody here is brought under consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. And for our final, oh, yes, ma'am. Okay.
Sharon Alexander. I'm from the community. I'm also a parent in this community, and I'm also a school board employee. Part of the things that we're looking at in our community here is that our schools lack the types of teachers we have, the programs that we need in order to keep the students in those schools. We have teachers that are coming in that are first-year or second-year teachers. We have folks that are constantly moving out. We have staff that are not in the schools to teach our kids. So when we lack a 3rd grade teacher in math, we now have to say, okay, as a parent, where do we send our child? So we start moving our kids so that our kids can learn. So the disparity has come because of the fact that we lack the things that we need in our community. And it's nothing on you all, because we understand that this came from the governor's office, paid for performance. So with all of these things, it changed the way how the school system operated. Because I'm going to take, as a teacher, I'm going to go to the school where I'm getting paid more, paid for performance. So I'm not going to go to a school that's a C or a D, because I'm not going to gain anything. So these are the things that has happened to our community. We watch that all these schools that we're looking at is schools that are under-enrolled based in our communities, in the Black and brown communities. We have schools in Coral Spring that have 300 students, but their schools are not being considered, but ours is. One of the things that we look at as an employee in the system, we advertise when charter schools were coming on board, they were at every bus. We have billboards, and we're not advertising our schools. We have right up the street, we are at Atta Ash. They're putting out the best nurses in this county, in this district, in this state, and they don't have a billboard that's being advertised. Nothing is being advertised to promote the school board. Why is that? But we're promoting charter schools. Could you tell us why? These are some of the things that we need to do. Promote back the school board, to promote back our achievements that we have, so that this way people will come back to our schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Ma'am, and then we will have Dr. Holness give us some closing thoughts.
Good evening.
Yes,
My name
ma'am.
is Carolyn Stewart, and I'm just going to piggyback on what she said. Life is about choices, and even with schools, and I know the people voted for choice of school. I just need to know, why are we losing the students to charter schools? Because you see them pop up You see them, I've seen one school change its name probably about 20 times. They get your students, they get your money, and then they're gone. But what are we doing to keep our students? As she said, what are we advertising? What are we doing for our students? What are we saying? When you have to leave, my kids have been in private school, they've been in public school, but what are we doing to keep those students from the charter school? Because trust and believe, they're not learning. I've walked in a charter school, they get your students there half the time, they don't have the teachers to teach your child. But because it's smaller, I'm dealing with a situation, my heart is so heavy tonight. I believe so much in the Broward County School Board. I believe so much, but what are we doing to keep those children? What are we doing to keep the teachers? When I have a 21-year-old teaching my child, but they're on the phone more than they're teaching my child. They can't pass a third grade test. We've got problems, and it's not so much where the school, and again, they're gonna look at where that school is located. You're gonna look at how that school, because your first impression is your last. When you walk in, it's jacked up like this. I don't want my child to go. There's so many things, so many. And if we're not putting back into our schools, Arthur Ashe, it's a new school. But you turned around, you're saying the up and down and the up and down. Our schools are going up and down. It's just like the city. You close a road in, say for improvements. Now you turn it right back around, you're widening the road. Now you're closing it. You close these schools. I'm building up, I live in Plantation. If you see the buildings right here off of 6th Street, if you see the buildings that's going up, where are those children going to go to school? I lived on a street and my elementary school was on the next street, but they bused me to Carl Springs on Wiles Road. That's a trip. When I know that there's a school there, that my mom went there, but I've got to go somewhere else, it's not fair. It's not fair at all. What are we doing? Why is a charter school getting so many of our children? And they're pop up and they're gone the next night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Hepburn?
Just want to say thank you for the feedback. Like I said, these are considerations that we're still going to refine based on the feedback. So it's greatly valued and greatly appreciated. A couple of myths I want to dispel with charter schools. We have no purview over charter schools. We don't control them. We may house their money, but we can't tell them what to do with that money. So absolutely, positively, no purview over charter schools. Also, some of the comments I want to, great feedback and definitely great questions, but I want to also clarify what this process is about. Presenting something to our school board to make a decision about a next step of what schools are going to be closed, refined, or repurposed. The programmatic stuff that many of you talked about as far as programs, the reason we didn't talk about programs is because that's the next phase after the decision is made about what we're going to do with certain schools. We're going to work with the community, walk hand in hand to make a decision about what you want to see in that school. If we come with specific programs, that may not be a program that the community wants to see in that school. It may not be a benefit to that community or those students. So that's going to be a process where we empower parents and community members to assist us with that along the way. Some people want Montessori, some people may not want Montessori, some people may want STEM, some people may not want STEM, some people may want performing arts, some people may not want that. So we'll work alongside the community to make sure the innovative opportunities in those schools are the right fit for those kids in that community. Also, thanks, Dr. Osgood, for pointing that out about the K.C. Wright building. There's a reason why we haven't used the name K.C. Wright building. We've been using the district headquarters because whatever decision is made with that building, the K.C. Wright name and monument, that statue will follow to the next district headquarters. That is important to us. That was already in the front of our minds when we made that decision. But I want the public to understand that the next steps, whatever the final recommendations that we make based on all the feedback that we're gathering for this town hall and the following town halls will help us refine our considerations that will turn into recommendations, and then that next phase that Mr. Strauss talked about earlier, which is what we call a planning phase. That's to plan out for what we want to see in those schools, the specific programs that we want to see in those schools, the specific alignment of the grade levels that we want to see in those schools. So we're making the right decision to make sure we're looking for the best impact in those schools that ultimately impacts the community. I'm a firm believer that if you, schools, actually, communities are a direct reflection of the opportunities that we present in our schools. So if we want to change our communities, we got to change our schools first. Dr. Holness.
I'd like to thank everyone for attending today. I'd like to thank our district and school staff for putting this together. I'd also like to thank, and oftentimes they go unnoticed, our security team who's all around. So if you could give our security team a round of applause, I think they're doing a great job. I'd also like to thank our elected officials and our community leaders for coming out. And I'd like to thank the attendees and those following online. And I would also certainly like to thank all of you who gave feedback tonight. We value and we appreciate your input. We will take your input seriously, and it will be a vital part of the decision-making process. We will do a better job with marketing our programs. We will do a better job with our customer service as a district. We will do a better job with our school appearance. We will do a better job with our student performance. We are a team, and we are one Broward. On May 14th, at Plantation High School at 5 p.m., we will have a workshop. I am encouraging all of you to attend this workshop. We will continue the discussion with the board based upon what's proposed here. There will not be a final vote on any of this until June 18th, which will be our board meeting. So please come out to the workshop, and we hope to also see you at our June 18th board meeting. So thank you all for coming tonight. We appreciate you, and we appreciate your input. Thank you very much.